Week one of official visit season for the Boston College Eagles. There were high expectations, and we only left with two commitments and one we're still waiting on. Will there be bigger fireworks in week two? We'll talk about it.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black. I am the editor of Eagle Insider, your premier Boston College site. Go check us out. We're part of the 247 network. On today's show, it's official visit season part two, the second week, where there's 12 offers coming on campus, 12 recruits. We're going to talk about who those recruits are and where BC stands going into this weekend, giving you a preview of everything you need to know as Bill O'Brien tries to land some more commitments. Now, just as a review, if you missed some of our earlier episodes, there were 13 recruits on campus for official visits in week one. Two of them were already committed silently. We found out about them after the fact, which was Bryce Lewis and Marcelous Townsend. But they committed after their visit. And there's a silent one, which means a recruit that you saw the Spencer Dickow, who's the general manager of the Eagles, tweet out, "They got another one." That has not been revealed yet. So right now, for those folks counting at home, and I know there's some of you always asking about this, there's two commitments that have yet to announce that we know of right now. Now, we're into the second week. We're going to see how this group, and every group is different, how they end up after a couple days of being on campus. Remember, they get a chance to meet Bill O'Brien. They get a chance to meet the team. They're going to stay with, they're going to be hosted by a player on the team. I know Micah Amity last week was on campus. He's a committed kid from Zvarian Brothers in Massachusetts. He stayed with Edwin Kalenki. They all get paired up with someone on the team. This week, there's 12 players. There were two players that were scheduled to come on campus that already committed elsewhere. That's Jordan Houston out of St. Thomas More in Connecticut. He's a wide receiver. He committed to Rutgers. And offensive lineman Chris Vigna out of Bergen Catholic, who was also supposed to come on this weekend, and he also committed to Rutgers. Rutgers is eating BC's breakfast right now with that stuff, but it's a couple. It's not a big deal, but I know a lot of people were excited about those two. So this week they get a chance to add to their crew. They get a chance to look at some of the these other kids that are on their big boards. These are all kids that BC has identified as ones they really are pushing for, and they're going to get them on campus, and they're going to try to seal a deal with them. Now, we're going to start off by talking about the offensive players. Look at the offensive side of the ball. The one position that really stands out in this group is the wide receiver position. Darrell Wyatt, the wide receivers coach, is a strong recruiter. He's probably the strongest recruiter they have on the roster. Ray Brown might give him a run for his money, the defensive back coach, but Wyatt has the longer reputation, I think. And he has three really good wide receivers coming on campus. He has already, we knew that Nedrick Bolden, who's already committed, he's coming. He's from Florida. You know the story if you've been listening. Anquan Bolden's younger cousin. He's committed. He'll be here. But you also have Dane Jones out of Texas, and you have Samaj Fleming, a wide receiver out of Florida. Both of those guys have good offers. Samaj Fleming is getting lots of looks at by the University of Georgia. You look at Dane Jones, and he has a solid list as well. I mean, you look at, this is a kid that I think obviously has a really good relationship with Darrell Wyatt, but he's got offers from Baylor, Florida, Kansas, Arizona State, Missouri, Nebraska, Pitt, SMU. You see what I mean here? This is a kid that is very, very highly thought after, and he would be the top recruit if he committed to you right now that you have. He's rated an 87, number 76 wide receiver according to the composite scale, 5'11" out of Missouri City, Texas. And Samaj Fleming is around the same. you have you have these 3 really good wide receivers coming on right now. You also have a bunch coming up next week too with, you have Christian Neptune, Dawson Poe, and then later on you have Ja'Cory Watson, another big time wide receiver. So there's some good names, and I just saw today as well that Daryl Wyatt added a new wide receiver to their big board, basically a new offer. Kid that just had visited Illinois, so they're doing a good job of back ending and adding to their big board. This wide receiver group is something to watch for because there's some really good players with really good offer sheets that are checking out the school. And I don't think there was any really last week. So this is going to be Daryl Wyatt's first big chance. And last year, if you remember, they weren't able to hold on to them because, well, BC was bad for a while and Hafley ran one off. But I trust that Wyatt could probably land some of these kids. So it's going to be an interesting position to watch for. The other, you look at other positions on the offense, and it's pretty quiet this weekend in terms of who else is going to be on campus. You don't have any running backs. You don't have any quarterbacks that we know of. You don't have any tight ends. You just have one interior offensive lineman, and it's one that I'm really excited to watch for. His name is Robert Smith. He's from Villa, and I hope I get it right, Villa Angela St. Joseph in Cleveland, Ohio. Now, this is a kid that has 2 official visits. He has one to BC, and he was just at Cincinnati. He didn't commit to Cincinnati after he checked them out. He's got some other offers like Western Kentucky, Temple, but it's those 2 schools I think that are really looking at him hard. And one that BC got in on him kind of later, but they've kept his interest quite a bit. And the fact that he didn't commit after the Cincinnati visit, that seems like a good sign. I mean, anything could happen, but that's something. And right now, BC doesn't have any offensive linemen committed for this class. Um, you know, they're looking to get 4 to 5 kids in this class. They're going to have to start getting some soon. They just also talk about building up their offensive line, rebuilding some big boards after you lose a guy. They just offered a kid out of, I think it was Indiana, and his name was Kual. I love names that are double. And again, an interesting kid. He's got offers from Iowa State, and he just got offered by Purdue today. And from what I heard from one of our national writers at 247, he's potentially trying to set up an official visit too. So they're building. This is an interesting group, but really, when we're looking at it, the group that I am more interested in talking about is the next group we're going to talk about, which is the defense. There is a lot of talent coming on the defensive side of the ball for BC this weekend, and there could be some really good finds for Bill O'Brien and the staff. I'll explain why in just a moment. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. And with over $122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you always find exactly what you're looking for. And the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit with your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, folks. Locked on BC, AJ Black here. Today, Friday, is the last day. If you were thinking about becoming a VIP for Eagle Insider, do it today. It's 60% off. That means you can get in and get all the information, and I'm providing you constant flow. I keep that flow going fast, furious every day, man. And for now, you can get in for about, I think it's like $3 to $4 a month for a whole year. After that year, it goes to the regular rate, but they throw in Paramount Plus on top of that after a year. So it's a good deal. This is a good deal. I hope you guys think about signing up. With Bill O'Brien in charge, it's going to be a crazy year. This will get you covered for the entire year. So you can see how much BC goes in that year with transfers and recruiting and all that. Check out the link in the notes. Sign up today on Friday. It's the last day to do it. All right. The defensive side of the ball is what I'm most excited about for this weekend, because there is some serious talent coming to Chestnut Hill from around not just the United States, but from Canada as well. Now, yeah, you have to understand when you're looking at recruiting that there's going to be kids from other countries that can help provide depth and talent when you need it. I mean, you look at some of the guys that BC has had in years past. They brought in some really good kids from Canada. I mean, even last year they brought someone in from Senegal/London who was just learning the game. But these kids here from Canada are much more experienced. And Nathan Nyandoro, and I'm probably butchering his name, is a 6'6" edge rusher from Vanier College in Quebec. Huge size, good talent that is looking at Boston College and Syracuse. That has had a relationship not just with Bill O'Brien's staff, but as you can see in the picture if you're watching on YouTube, he was recruited by Jeff Hafley's staff back in the summer last year. He came on campus. So this relationship with BC has been going on for quite a while. He is the perfect, like, under recruited diamond in the rough for the Eagles. A guy that um, you watch his film and you see that there's a lot of things to like about him. But he's not the polished blue chipper that plays for, like, St. John's Bosco or St. Francis Academy. You know what I mean? He comes from a school that maybe the other schools have not picked up on yet. But if he camped enough in some of these other places, I'm sure he would pick up more offers. I really like him, and I bet you, he's on BC's big board. They don't tell me what order it is in, but I bet you he's pretty high up on their edge rushing big board as well. Now, the defensive line position is one that's really stacked for this weekend. Like, there's a ton of there's a good chunk of defensive linemen that are coming this weekend. The other one is Sichan John from Hebron Academy in Dacula, Georgia, and he is a 6'3", 290-pound defensive tackle that's looking at BC. He's looking at Virginia, and I believe he just set up official visits to either West Virginia or Maryland. I don't see it on his board. Oh, no, Maryland. There it is. He's going to Maryland as well. Love this. This is another kid that has been high on BC, but I'm going to be honest with you. If I was a bet man, I bet he ends up with the Who's. I think he's going to end up at UVA, but he's coming up this week too. So he's got another kid from Georgia coming up. And then there's a third defensive lineman, and that is the name that I think is the biggest name coming this weekend, and it's Tristan Abram, from Christian Brothers Academy in Missouri. This kid was just at Kansas State last weekend. He's got visits set up to Indiana, BC, and Memphis. And some of the people I've talked to love his film. His rating isn't what you would, like, some people are just in love with ratings, but when you watch his film, this is a kid that I think could be the best edge rusher BC's going after. It's going to be a tough one, obviously, if he's got 4 official visits set up. And I heard the official visit to Kansas State went really well, but he's making it to BC, so you never know. When you're thinking of these things, remember in your brain, all it takes is one visit for them to commit, right? Like, they could have 4 visits, but if they fall in love with one school, that could be it. That's why we saw a couple kids leave to go someplace else that I thought would be BC targets, but they fell in love with their first program that they looked at. It just happens. It's high school kids. That's how it works, and it could change down the line as well. BC also has a solid group of defensive backs coming. They got Jordan Woods from Cartersville, Georgia. They have Amarian Davis, a safety from South Carolina. Ray Sykes from Georgia, and Rayshawn Andrews from Connecticut, and then Jordan Woods from Georgia. See, they got a lot of defensive backs from Georgia. I don't know what Ray Brown likes down there, but there's a lot of defensive backs that they're looking from that area. And honestly, when you're looking at these positions and these kids, I have a hard time reading where they're at. Because there's a lot of guys that are kind of similar. So they probably have a board who's where, but I could see any of them. So at the end of the day, these are all the kids that are coming down. You got Zachary Johnson coming from Thomas, a linebacker from Georgia as well. So you got all these kids coming down, a lot of defensive ends, lots of defensive talent coming this week. You ask yourself, what would I consider the probability of commitments for this week? I would put it at like 3 or 4 again. Like last week was 3, but 2 of those two didn't really count. But I look at the names coming this weekend. I think like 4 would probably be around where you would expect, because then that would put you at 14 commitments, 13 commitments. And then you have 2 more weekends to do it. You get up to about 20, and then you have some spots for over the week. That sounds about right. So I'm going to go with 4 commitments. That's my guess. 4. And if I was to pick, if you were to put the gun to my head and tell me, pick somebody, AJ, that you think will be the first one to commit, or one of the people to commit this weekend, my pick, I'm going to go different here. I'm going to go with linebacker. I think Zachary Thomas out of Georgia. Talk to him. He thinks the staff, he has a great relationship with the staff. He has a couple other official visits on hand. I think he's going to Georgia Tech, and someplace else, Liberty. Those are the other schools he's looking at. But I get this sense that he really does like BC a lot. So that's gonna be my guess for this weekend. I could be completely wrong. There's like 4 or 5 guys that could, either pop or be like, yep, I'm not gonna do anything. I'm gonna go. My guess for the weekend, Zachary Thomas, a linebacker from Georgia. Now, in our final segment, a new Phil Steele magazine came out, and in it they have the most difficult schedules in the ACC. I'll tell you where BC lands in this whole thing in just a moment. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black. One of the best parts of the summer is when Phil Steele of ESPN releases his preview magazine. It's a must get for college football fans. Now, if you want like really good analysis, I would honestly take Mitch Wolf over him, because I think Mitch puts a excellent product out there, and you can get him over at Eagle Insider. And I'm not joking. Anyone who is part of Eagle Insider and reads, go check out Mitch's preview on the Pittsburgh Panthers. He wrote over 4,000 words. All of it is dead on. But I digress. Back to what Phil Steele did. He looked at the toughest games, conference schedules for the ACC. This does not include out of conference, because we already know that BC has one of the most difficult out of conference schedules. So when you're looking at the conference, you look at who the BC's playing. I was curious to see where they would put them, because I just know the out of conference weights it so hard when you have Michigan State, you have Western Kentucky, you have Missouri, and you have Duquesne doesn't count, but you have your conference schedule, and I was curious where they would put them. And yes, it's as hard as it sounds. They are number 4 for the most difficult schedule. And they say, on 247, one of our writers wrote, "We like the Eagles' long-term potential with Bill O'Brien at the helm. However, all the signs point to a rebuilding year, as the Eagles didn't get any favors with their schedule. Boston College gets smacked in the face early with trips to Florida State and Missouri. It doesn't let up much after that either." I argue that it does let up a little after that, because you're not playing 2 top 10 teams basically in a row after that. But I digress again. My point, BC does have a tough schedule. I also think that if BC is coached well and performs at a nice, solid level, that they can still win more than what I've seen. I saw On3 put up their betting lines for this upcoming season, and they looked at the win total projections and said whether they think it's too high, too low, or just right. And in the too high at 4.5 was BC, and I was like, that's too high. Like, I'm looking at the schedule, and yeah, I know some of these games are tough, but you're playing Duquesne, you're playing Pittsburgh, who's going to be awful. And I know they beat you last year, but Bill O'Brien's not going. I think he's a better coach and won't let what Halfley did happen again. Virginia shouldn't be all that great. And then you have at least a couple more games that Western Kentucky. And I feel like this team could at least pull off one more win. But I digress. Again, it's going to be the perception going into the season that everything that BC has to play is going to be tough. And that's okay, because at the end of the day, it's how this team produces on the field. Can they play these high leverage games and do the things that they need to do to win, 6 games and make a bowl? I'm seeing also on the other side of the coin, more publications and podcasts showing love for Thomas Castellanos and Mitch Wolf of Eagle Insider, who you guys have heard on the show before, also sent me that Split Zone D, the Split Zone Duo, talked about on their latest episode of 9 college football players to tell your friends about for 2024. Thomas Castellanos was on there. When you have a quarterback like that, and if they can harness the way he plays, you could win a lot of games. If he continues to play like he did last year and is, chaotic good, but still chaotic, it's going to be tough. But this is where you could see where Bill O'Brien shines. We'll be back. So again, this is our episode of the week. We'll do 3 episodes a week, but we're on summer schedule right now. As I let my brain kind of decompress a little bit, so that I can give you great work when we get to the August and camp work. The next 2 months, I'm going to be doing 3 days a week, unless there's a ton of news. And this week, it was crazy at the beginning, and then it kind of got quiet again. So my goal, and I know you guys might hate it, is I'm going to do 3 days a week. But if I know like Monday and Tuesday, there's going to be commitments or there's big news on Monday, Tuesday, I might do Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, or Monday, Tuesday, and Friday, or Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. It's going to be a little bit here and, sporadic how I do it, at least for the next couple of weeks while the official visit season is going. Make sure to hit the bell so you know when I go. And check me out on Twitter at AJBlack247 or on Facebook. You can find Eagle Insider there. I post the links to these episodes all the time there. That way you know when we're going live. And if you have any questions, hit me up. Love to talk to each and every one of you. Thank you for all of you who have made Locked On BC your first daily listen. And I hope to see you again on Monday so we can talk about, hopefully, some commitments on Locked On Boston College, your team every day.